Hello everyone, this is AndresRestart, and this time we are talking about what appears to be the motherload of Nintendo Switch 2 leaks. Or perhaps I should say, the motherboard of Nintendo Switch 2 leaks. Because quite literally, it looks like the actual motherboard of the Nintendo Switch 2 has been leaked. We have imagery of this chip, we can see a whole bunch of details that tell us more about the specs of the console, and there's certainly been a great deal of debate about everything this may imply. The power of the console, the efficiency of the console, will this console be able to have some significant AAA third-party support, how great will games look? But then beyond that, there have been some other discoveries that have some serious implications as well for how we might be experiencing games on Switch 2. So there's a decent amount to get into today.
Before we go forward here, let me tell you a little bit about sellmygames.com. It's exactly as it sounds, a website where you can sell your games, and all kinds of games, modern games, retro games, tons of Nintendo games, hardware, and accessories. You can just get started here, search up Nintendo Switch, you'll find what Nintendo Switch you may have if you want to sell one, if you're saving up for the Switch 2, and then you can go to cart and make a quick $126. You fill out your information, they will provide you a prepaid label, you take it to a USPS location, and then you'll be paid promptly in a method of your choosing, Venmo, PayPal, or even a check. And one of the biggest things for me is that sellmygames.com is reliable. According to trustpilot.com, they have a 4.8 out of 5 stars rating. We even see reviews here where the customer service is exceptional. So sellmygames.com is reliable. It's a great, easy way to get some quick cash selling some games or accessories you no longer need. You can check out sellmygames.com with the link in the description below.
So this motherboard leak is coming from Reddit. Here are the images here, and everyone has been going crazy about these photos here. But why are we going crazy about these photos? Well, if you look here, let me show it on this end here. We can actually see the serial number upside down for this motherboard. And this is a big deal because this is something we've seen before from the shipping manifests. We know this is an actual part Nintendo has purchased. This is very likely a real thing. This is very hard to fake. Could it possibly have been faked? I'm sure it's possible, but everything we're seeing here is matching up pretty darn well. And the fact of the matter is, us getting leaks at this point of this kind, it may seem surprising to some, but we've gotten a lot of evidence over the last few months that Nintendo has been close with Switch 2. They have been in the middle of the manufacturing process, and if that is happening, based off history, leaks will also occur. And they have been happening, and now we have photos of the actual motherboard. And so perhaps we can dive into a conversation about, did Nintendo take too long to reveal the console? And ultimately, I don't think it's going to matter that much. I think once we see how Nintendo will brand and market the console, all the extra features, the software and everything, we're going to get a much better picture, far better than what we're seeing from all the leaks. And that's what's going to really sell us on it all. But is this an ideal situation for Nintendo? No. I'm just saying that they can make a recovery here. And I do have to wonder if they were aware that leaks would probably happen if they were to wait this long to reveal the console. The good news is that if we are getting leaks to this level, then it may also help to further support the different rumors that are suggesting a reveal may be happening as soon as this January. We shall see. Now, there are some interesting observations people have made. Looking over here, what we can see of this module here and here, it looks like these are the RAM for the Switch 2, and from what we're seeing of this, apparently, this would be 12 gigabytes of RAM, 6 here and 6 here. Which, interestingly, this info kind of leaked a while back from the shipping data. We know that the Switch 2 is supposed to have 12 gigabytes of LPDDR5X, and, well, that's what this appears to be here. So this RAM would be much more modern, faster, and a lot more than what we had for Switch 1 by a great deal. 12 gigabytes of RAM, that is a good thing, especially because recently we've been hearing that Black Myth Wukong is having issues getting ported over to Xbox because the Xbox Series S version doesn't quite have enough RAM and it's leading to issues. The Switch 2, having more RAM, could benefit ports like this. We could see Black Myth Wukong come to Nintendo Switch 2. And just a reminder here, we have heard so many different rumors over the months from different developers and such that the Switch 2 hardware is going to be surprisingly capable, that it's going to be able to run and play a variety of big AAA third-party games, maybe like Black Myth Wukong. And I bring this up now because there is something else that people have been talking about that has led to a great deal of controversy. You see this right here, the apparent CPU for the Switch 2 made by Nvidia. When we look at this serial number here, or these letters, there is an S, which leads people to believe that this has been put together by Samsung. And because of that, we look at users on Twitter like, here's Central Leaks, who said, "Welp, it's over." Based on the leaked SoC picture of this appears to be manufactured by Samsung, meaning the 8nm node is likely 2018 technology. A lot of people expected 4nm. Now, many people came out and accused Central Leaks of dooming and glooming here because there just really isn't enough evidence to say that it's 8nm. And Central Leaks did eventually follow up and bring up that maybe it's not necessarily 8nm. According to this user on Fanboards, Zombie or Zomble, we have enough information to rule out 8nm and to establish Samsung 5nm. Some people are still debating what may be going on here, but I think something that's important to point out is that for years, Samsung has been producing things beyond 8nm. It could be 7, it could be 5, it could be 4. So to just assume 8, I don't think that's a really good assumption, especially because based on what people are seeing in the photos, that doesn't seem to match up too well. Now you might be wondering, what's even the big deal if the Switch 2 is 8nm as opposed to 5 or 4 or something like that? Well, with less nanometers, it means it is more power efficient and there is less cooling required, and the transistors would be faster, and the density is higher. So if the Switch 2 SoC is made with an 8nm process, it's not going to be as power efficient, and it's going to have more heating issues or require more cooling, and this would not benefit portable mode. In portable mode, they would have to clock down the console far more, so a lot less power so the battery isn't drained so much and so it doesn't get too hot. As pointed out by Super Metal Dave though, if it ends up being 8nm, that wouldn't be that big of a deal for docked mode. But also as pointed out by Super Metal Dave, Samsung also makes 4nm chips here, and they've made others as well, so we should not jump to the conclusion that this right here is an 8nm process. It could be less, and I would actually say it's more likely to be less because 8nm is pretty old by this point. But here's another interesting observation made from these motherboard leaks. Looking at this cartridge slot here, we can see what appears to be a Switch 1 cartridge. It looks like a Switch 1 cartridge. But what some other people are noticing is that it looks like there might be space for a little notch here. So if you're familiar with the Nintendo 3DS cartridges, they plugged into the 3DS the same way the DS did. You can take a DS cartridge and put it into your 3DS in the same spot, but there's a little space for a notch for 3DS cartridges. You wouldn't be able to put the 3DS cartridges into a Nintendo DS, the prior generation. And so we are seeing a little bit of space here, which is leading some to theorize that Switch 2 cartridges may have a little notch, just like how 3DS added a notch compared to DS cartridges. So that's neat to consider. But there have been some other bigger things that have come out as of late. So we have another update from Nintendo's patents. This has been around for some time, but it's been an additional update here. And as Laura Kate Dale here says, another new Nintendo patent published yesterday seems to yet again verify claims the Switch 2 will use DLSS style AI upscaling NVIDIA chip to improve output resolutions for games rather than trying to natively run them at higher internal resolutions. So it's just more evidence to support that Nintendo's using some form of deep learning super sampling, which will allow Nintendo to run games at lower resolutions, but through that DLSS magic or whatever sort of AI upscaling they want to call it it will improve that resolution significantly. And what most people are sort of thinking right now is that this is basically going to be NVIDIA's DLSS, but it will be a customized version for Switch 2, hence the need for a patent. But there are other things this technology could provide. We've already talked about in the past how the Switch 2 reportedly will also have ray reconstruction, which this would enable some pretty good ray tracing effects, a simulation of real-world lighting effects, and this can help games to look a lot better. We've theorized maybe some games that receive some sort of improvement like this, perhaps, for example, an enhanced version of Metroid Prime 4 Beyond on Switch 2. And so there's reason to believe that some Switch 2 games will have some level of ray tracing effects and much higher resolutions, even in portable mode. From the patent, we saw an example where they would be taking a 540p image and upscaling it up to 1080p. And what's interesting about that is that we've also gotten reports that the Switch 2 screen will be an 8-inch 1080p screen. So this could be talking about how they can benefit handheld mode, target a 540p resolution, which might be pretty doable in portable handheld mode, but you can still overall get a 1080p image thanks to this AI upscaling. And by the way, we're just talking about handheld mode here. In docked mode, we assume they could go to much higher resolutions and they wouldn't be targeting 540p in docked mode. They would target a higher resolution in docked mode and then upscale that to an even higher resolution, perhaps 1440p and maybe in some cases 4K. That will ultimately be up to the developer. But Laura Kate Dale pointed out something else very interesting from this patent. Perhaps the most interesting piece of this, after a lengthy read, is that one example use case given is explicitly to reduce overall game sizes, to fit a modern game into smaller capacity physical media. Example, Switch carts, which get exponentially more expensive for larger cart capacities. The example given is that a game with a native 4K textures might need a 60GB download, but a 1080p native version might only need 20GB, which would allow it to fit onto a 32GB Switch cartridge, the current max size Nintendo produces for Switch 1. The idea being to do a 4x upscale on the device in real time. So again, this would be more options for the developer to find different ways to optimize their game for Switch 2. Be that not using 4K textures so they can simply rely on the upscaling so they can have a smaller game size, or maybe they still include those textures because they're not too worried about overall game size, and they can have an even higher quality upscale, and they can do all sorts of different things. They can target 540p, they can target 1080p, and then upscale that to 1080p or even up to 4K. And this in some cases could even help developers target 60 FPS as opposed to 30, because if they're targeting a lower resolution, that may not be as demanding and they can do other things. So in summary, I'll say that these leaks of the Switch 2 motherboard are likely to be real, given that there's nothing really fishy about the photos, given how hard they would be to fake, given the serial numbers and how they match up from the shipping manifests. And everything we're seeing from this matches up with everything we've sort of come to understand over these last few months. We just have additional confirmation of the RAM. We have additional confirmation from the patents regarding Nintendo and Nvidia working on some form of AI upscaling, likely a customized version of DLSS. There's still some debate on the nanometer process for the Switch 2, given that it's been put together by Samsung, but most people don't seem to be inclined to doom and gloom here and assume it's going to be an 8nm process, which, by the way, even if it was, wouldn't actually be the end of the world. And so basically, everything we've been talking about regarding Switch 2, being able to run a lot of third-party games, having higher resolutions, being a significant dramatic improvement over what we had on Switch 1, that all seems to still be the case. And that's exciting. But what do you all think? Let me know in the comments below. This is AndresRestart. Thank you so much for listening and watching, and I'll see you all really soon. Take care. Bye.